And time for yet another video. Now this is on the same subject, of course. It's on UFOs and Roswell in particular. I think the crash at Corona is still Roswell, isn't it? It's the same story. Now this is a program that was on Channel 7 the other day. It's called The Phenomenon. And to be perfectly honest, it was quite disappointing, and I'll point out why.
Every now and then in journalism, somebody will tell you something and you just don't quite know what to make of it. This is one of those times. Make of this what you will. I've been told here in America by multiple defence and intelligence sources, 2 former and 1 serving senior officials, something quite amazing, that America has recovered alien extraterrestrial technology, including spacecraft. And one of them was recovered from near here. And if that's not enough, they're also talking about alien bodies.
Now, there's no evidence, of course. He's been told, okay? Now, are these people ex-military, really? Are they fantasists? Even if they were in the military, doesn't mean that they're not fantasists, that they're not UFO enthusiasts.
For years, I've been interested in a lot of these crazy-sounding cases of US military secretly recovering alien spacecraft from parts of New Mexico, Nevada and Utah. So I met and interviewed a while back for my book, Scott and Suzanne Ramsey.
Of course he's writing a book on UFOs. Who would have picked that, eh?
Scott found out by accident from local Navajo Indians talking about the crash site. And so as a husband and wife couple, they have done some phenomenal research.
Well, on March 25th, 1948, oil workers discovered a lenticular craft laying up here after being called out because of a brush fire. And
a lenticular craft. Oh, so this is 1948, so this is not the 1947 Roswell crash. Okay.
Came up and found this large object, about 18 feet tall, just short of 100 feet across.
Now you're testing me here. You're saying an alien spacecraft with multiple dead aliens on it.
Yeah.
16.
Was discovered here.
That's right.
Now remember, this is what they were told. They did not see an alien spacecraft. They were told an alien spacecraft crashed there. And here's a rather nice representation of the alien spacecraft. Typical flying saucer.
This process, it was insignificant whether it was positive or negative, the results. We wanted the truth. And it has led us in the direction that we firmly believe that it occurred.
So what happens? They discover a craft. How many individual dead, I can't believe I'm saying this, aliens are on board this craft?
16.
So this crash at Corona, didn't it go from 1 dead alien to 2 dead aliens to 4 dead aliens to 8 dead aliens to 12 dead aliens, and now it's 16 dead aliens? Tune in next week, folks. It'll be 32 dead aliens.
16 aliens.
16. They were between 3.5 feet to 4 feet tall. They were perfect teeth. They were childlike in appearance.
Now remember, this is what they've been told. This is not what they've witnessed. And it's helped out, of course, by the artist's impression. All these little bodies all over the place. Yeah. And
they had...
Oh, I was too late. I was just going to point out they'd even included a nice reflection of a helicopter in the on the surface of the saucer there.
Jumpsuits on that were like a powder-colored blue. They were charred, blue uniforms on. Nothing that would signify rank.
They speak about it as though they were there. And this is on the big screen, so This is recorded on the hard disk drive, direct off-air television. So apologies for the slight delay when I pause and unpause the picture. The delay's on the machine.
Really fascinated me was that there was a claim that saucer craft, whatever.
Hang on. It says each section of the craft, this is up in the corner here, each section of the craft would have to be something by centering and balancing the object on the trailer on both axes, spelt wrong, depending on the density of the fuselage, or the density of the people putting this together, I suspect. And it says tractor, trailer, trailer bed. This is all meaningless, really. I mean, if you're transporting something, then you've only got to watch Super Truckers or something like that to know that very big objects can be secured to large trucks. I mean, this doesn't mean anything. It's just padding.
Had hit another mesa on the way. And we were privileged to be able to meet the granddaughter of the man who saw that craft hit that hill, a woman called Krista. And to test her claims, she very kindly agreed to come with us to the top of a 7,500-foot mesa, which is an expedition I will never forget. We went to the very top of the hill and she pointed out to us the rock that in family folklore her grandfather said was the rock that the craft hit, this massive craft hit, and then kept on going after it hit that object.
Note, he said, in family folklore. Okay, so this is just more flying saucer tales.
He said that it was wobbling, and when it hit the rock over here, it was wobbling. And before it hit the rock.
So it was obviously out of control.
It was out of control, absolutely.
Wherever they were from, they and their craft ended up right here.
You've actually spoken directly to people who saw this object.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
You have talked to people directly that have seen this object. So these two are purely going by what they've been told and what they choose to believe, or at least give us the impression that they choose to believe.
Believe them.
Absolutely, I do.
And so John, our cameraman, put his drone up, and for the first time we got drone vision and photographs of this mark on this bit of rock. And I don't know for sure what it is. I'm not a geologist. I'm not somebody who can qualify to look at rocks. But it does look like something's hit that rock. And whatever it was.
So they're saying that gouge, hang on, let's just go back a tad there. Let's just go back just a little bit. Can we go back quick enough before this gets boring and everyone hits stop? No, it's stopped, isn't it? Hang on a minute, let's just play. Let's take it out of slow-mo. And just go back a bit there. Okay, so each
time we got...
Okay, so what he actually does is he zooms in on that gouge with his drone. Okay, this gouge here, this gouge here, this gouge in the rock. Now if we zoom out as he's zooming in, you know, there's another one down there. That is a far more impressive gouge, isn't it? And if we look at the general strata of the rock there as it goes across and over to the other side, I mean that's nothing at all. I would say that is absolute bloody rubbish. Someone's just looked at that and thought, oh yeah, that'll do. We'll say that's what it hit. You know, why didn't it hit that one? You know, because that looks equally like something's taken a gouge out of it, doesn't it? Someone's gouged a lump out of it, rather. Yeah, this is absolute bloody nonsense. Absolute drivel. Yeah. So anyway, Ross Coulthard is relating these stories. He's done a bit of research. He's written a book that he's peddling, of course. But I haven't seen anything convincing in this. I certainly don't believe they found a crashed flying saucer or, alien spacecraft or dead bodies or anything like that. I don't think any of this is remotely convincing. Families talking about family folklore. They've been told by somebody that this happened. There's zero evidence of any of this actually happening. Okay, let's have another look at another bit of the phenomenon. Okay, well, here's another bit from the Ross Coulthard documentary, The Phenomenon. So this is another thing that I thought might be worth a quick look at.
Coulthard has arrived here to investigate the strange activities of something that's been flying above Exmouth. Down Under's very own rock.
Now, they're saying this is a super secret base and this is Australia's very own Roswell. This is nonsense, of course. I've actually been to this place. Now, this no entry sign, they show it to you like that in close-up. That's not me doing that. That's them doing that. No entry behind the wire fence. Because the wire fence is only about 1.5 meters high. They're trying to give the impression it's super secret and it's mega well guarded and all this sort of stuff. Compared to Pine Gap, it really is not. Pine Gap is very well guarded and is super secret. This place is not super secret. The people that need to know anything about this would have known about it for decades. This thing was built, I think, in the 60s. There's even a plaque outside on a stick that tells you the frequencies they operate on, the transmitter power, and the fact that there are radials buried in the ground, how many there are, and at what depth. So this is really journalistic exaggeration to the nth degree. This place is the Harold E. Holt Naval Communications Station up on the Northwest Cape in Western Australia. I've shown it before in some of the videos. It looks interesting to people that are sort of non-technical and don't understand what it's all about. But it's a VLF communication station for communicating messages to submerged submarines.
Well,
it was God's town. It was really God's town. I mean, Exmouth is sheer paradise.
for many years, a tropical outpost of the United States on the edge of the Australian outback.
So every morning we'd say, God save the Queen, and then we would swear allegiance to the flag.
To the American flag in Australia.
In Australia.
Hiding in its star-spangled skies, some very dark secrets.
We saw an unidentified flying object, and the US military wanted to know what we had seen. They wanted it shut up.
Yeah, this is actually the Solar Observatory in Exmouth, the thing with the dish pointing up in the air there. That's not really related to the, well, it's not remotely connected to the VLF communication station.
It, whatever it is, seems to be interested in this place, on the edge of town. A heavily guarded military installation once run by the Americans. And just a few kilometres further out, one of the strangest structures in Australia. Built to radio nuclear attack orders directly to US submarines in the event of all-out war.
You couldn't pick a more remote part of Australia to locate this extremely secret military base.
Well, it's not extremely secret. I mean, the codes it transmits are probably secret, but you know, the base itself is not secret. Everybody knows where it is and what it does. That's not even remotely secret, and they put it on the peninsula up on the Northwest Cape there. Not to hide it away, but because that's where VLF stations work best. They work best if they're surrounded by water, or as surrounded by water as they can possibly be, by seawater. And I'll show you this place on Google Earth. I've done it before, but I'll do it again. And there's a similar place in Cutler, Maine, that's got two of these. So if they're going to zoom out, we'll see that we might be able to see what sort of pattern it forms.
That was doing communications with America's most dangerous nuclear submarine.
Yeah, there you go. So you can see that sort of pattern, and you can see, you should be able to see anyway, there are these sort of diamond shaped wire petals. There's one there, there's one there, there's one there, all the way around. If you look down on it, there are these diamond shaped panels. You can just see the sort of outer part of the diamonds more clearly than the inner parts. And it looks quite spectacular because it's all the dirt up there is all red dirt, so it looks quite good. And of course you've got the nice white beach. I've actually sat on that beach, done a bit of I call it sunbathing in the UK, but they call it sunbaking in Australia. I've done some sunbaking right there, in fact, right along here, right by there. There's a little cafe there. And there's the entrance to the place. The actual mast that does the radiating is 1,000 feet tall. It's a vertical mast right in the middle there, and it's supporting all these. You've got a ring of towers, an inner ring you can see here, and then you've got the outer ring supporting the ends of the diamonds around the edge here. And it's a vertical mast. It's over 1,000 feet tall, and this is the bit that actually does the radiating. The wire petals on top form a huge capacity hat. It's called huge capacity hat. The actual antenna arrangement itself is called a Doco antenna, and I'll show you a bit about the Doco antennas, and I'll show you this on Google Earth, and I'll see if I can show you the Cutler, Maine as well, because that's on a peninsula as well. I've got two of these Doco antennas for using VLF to talk to submarines. And again, they're on a peninsula that's almost completely surrounded by seawater, and that's because it works far more efficiently, the VLF communications, if you put it in a place like that. It's not squirreled away right on the tip of Australia to keep it away from people that might see it, you know, out of secrecy. That's just an exaggeration. Journalistic license.
It's at the height of the Cold War. It's one of the last places in the country to see the light every day. And one dark night, 30 years ago, a young Australian who was living here, called Annie, had an experience that was to change her life forever.
I'll stop that there. She goes on to relate this UFO story where she saw a black triangle basically hovering over her car, hovering next to her car. Later on in this documentary, if that's the right word, Ross Coulthard here shows her a picture of a stealth aircraft, and she said, oh yeah, that's what I saw. Now, stealth aircraft don't hover. Now, what I suspect might have been happening here is, because this transmits VLF signals, it might have been looking at VLF reflections from, I don't know, some sort of reconnaissance type vehicle. It might have been a lighter than air reconnaissance vehicle, triangular shaped balloon. For want of a better description, that might be able to float around near an enemy and do some intelligence gathering. These things do exist, and they may have wanted to see the reflections coming off it, because stealth aircraft are designed to have a very, very small reflection provide very small reflections from microwave radars, so centimetric and millimetric wavelengths. The Americans actually flew a stealth aircraft around the equator, one of those Nighthawk stealth planes. I can't remember what the designation was now, but the stealth fighter, was it an F-117, something like that? They flew one around the equator, and the Australians tracked it with their high-frequency over-the-horizon radar, and told the Americans that they saw it, over Papua New Guinea, and they described precisely the track through the range of the radar. And the Americans were quite disturbed by this. So it might have been that I think this was in '91. I don't know when they tracked the stealth fighter with the over-the-horizon radar, but it might have been a bit of a rude awakening to the Americans that these things could be tracked. And it may be that they were playing around, and they were just looking at low frequency reflections off of some sort of test vehicle, and that was what she saw. Now, Goonhilly, I think it was Goonhilly, in the UK, was built a very long time ago. It's used for radio astronomy, but the primary purpose of it at that time, because the Cold War was on, to look at reflections from Soviet missile launches. So the Soviets would launch test missiles, and they would track their missiles with radar. But of course the reflections were coming off of the missiles all over the place, and they were picked up by Goonhilly, and the British were tracking the Russian missile launches using that big dish in the UK. This might have been a similar thing, but because they'd had the bad experience of the stealth fighter being tracked using HF over-the-horizon radar, they were just doing some experiments with these very low frequency radio waves, just to see how they bounce off of airborne vehicles and how far the reflections go and that sort of stuff. Now, the way the over-the-horizon radar works is it sort of goes up to the ionosphere and then looks down. So a stealth aircraft has got all those facets on it. That's why they're not supersonic. The airflow over them is pretty poor. But all the facets on them reflect any microwave radars off them at funny angles, and you don't get much of a reflection of them. It's a very, very low radar. What do they call it? I can't remember what the technical term for that is now, but very, very low. The actual echoes sent back from it are really small, so unless you're very close to it, it's undetectable. But when you're actually looking down on it with long wavelengths, so instead of looking at it from the side or the underneath, where it's designed to reflect these things off at all funny angles and you don't get a good reflection, looking down on it from the ionosphere, you see it in plan view with very long wavelengths. They're not designed to defeat that kind of radar, and they just show up like any other aircraft would. Okay, I'm just going to fast forward this a bit and show you something else. Oh, perhaps before we do that, I'll just have a bit of a look at Google Earth, and I'll show you this place on Google Earth, and I'll see if I can show you the American one as well. Okay, so this is the Harold E. Holt Communication Station. Harold E. Holt Communication Station, VLF Towers, and that's what they showed on the program. I really don't know how they can possibly call this the Australian Roswell. It's absolute nonsense. Absolute drivel. And we can see again the diamond shape. The diamond shape of the petals for the capacity hat, the top loading for the vertical antenna. All these. I'll show you the Trideco antenna on Wikipedia, but I'll just show you where this is in Australia. So it's up near Exmouth on the Northwest Cape. So as we come out of there, you can see it's almost completely surrounded by ocean. And that is for efficiency at VLF. This is a VLF transmitting station for talking to submarines. It's not squirreled away up there because it's super top secret or anything like that. This has been put there for practicality. This is where a VLF station will work most efficiently. And we'll come out of there, and you can see whereabouts that is on the Australian continent. There we go. I sort of live down here. I have lived up here in the desert, and I certainly have visited Exmouth. Driven past this place, stopped, looked at the signs, even photographed the signs. I've seen that fence personally with that sign on it, and it's you could you could step over it. You probably wouldn't want to, being a high power VLF station. But, anyway, that's where it is. The Harold E. Holt Naval Communications Station, up in the Northwest Cape there, the northern tip of Western Australia. And actually, I wonder if Google Earth would let me do a if I put the little man at the gate. I wonder if it would let me show you the masts. If I go to there, drag to enter street view, is it going to show me the street view? No. Okay. Alright, it doesn't want to show us the street view. So I'll just see if I can find a similar arrangement in America. So just back in a sec. Well, Google Earth will allow me to get somewhere near the base with street view. It runs out of puff before you actually get up to the gate. That's probably for security reasons. But if I turn this around, there you go. You can see the masts there, the supporting masts, and here you can see the fence. See the fence? Star pickets, the fence posts. It's about 1.5 meters high, this fence. You can just step over it and walk up to these towers if you wanted to. I really wouldn't recommend that because it's a very high power VLF, very low frequency station, and the exposure to, you'd be getting exposure to significant levels of electromagnetic radiation, so I wouldn't want to linger there personally. But you can see, this is hardly a bastion of security, is it? Super secret base. Yeah. It's a super secret base with a little sign on a stick that tells you all the technical information about it. What frequencies they use, how much power they use, who made the transmitter. It was actually made by a company called Continental Electronics that makes, well, certainly used to make an awful lot of broadcasting transmitters for the AM radio stations in America. Typically 50,000 watt transmitters, some 10,000 watt ones as well. This one is 2 megawatts, so far more power than any AM broadcasting stations use. Well, certainly on the AM band. I mean, there might be 1 or 2 shortwave stations that run a couple of megawatts, but this can run 2 million watts. They run it most of the time at 1 million watts. They only pump it up if they need to. It's a very expensive place to run, if you're generating all this power. But if you go onto Wikipedia, or if you go on the internet in general, it will actually show you, pictures of the transmitter, pictures of the tuning inside the tuning house. So, I mean, this is. You can see it would come out here, so you can get sort of fairly close to it. But yeah, the street view runs out about here, and I suspect that's purely for security reasons. They don't want you to see the the barrier here with the guys with the guns, probably, because there will certainly be those. There's another comment I was going to make. What was that? I can't honestly remember. I sort of missed the flow coming out of the street view. Oh yeah. So if we actually go to the plan view of it. Spin that round just a bit. Zoom in. That's funny because before I was looking straight down on it, or was that on the TV show maybe? Okay, that's a better picture of it. So right in the middle there, you can't see all the wire petals coming off, but they all come off of this mast in the middle here. This is over 1,000 feet tall, and here you'll have the transmitter and the tuning house in here. And there'll be massive big, it's probably an inductive variometer in there for matching the antenna to the transmitter. Because even though the antenna is absolutely enormous, it's going to be a small fraction of a wavelength at the frequencies they're using. So it's going to be a very low impedance, and they're going to have to match that very low impedance to the 50 ohm output impedance of the transmitter. It might be 300 ohms, it's probably 50 ohms. But anyway, that's a sort of by the by. But I just thought I'd show you the huge 15-foot high fence with the razor wire all along the top. 2 rows of that, of course, with vehicles patrolling in between, as you get with all these really high security installations. Now, this is the Naval Communication Station at Cutler, Maine, in the United States. And you can, although the ground is not nice and red and easy to see, you can just make out that shape, that similar shape there, where they've got the diamond-shaped panels going to the central mast there. And there's actually 2 of these antennas at Cutler, Maine, and I'll just show you where they are in America. See the similarity of where they're located, almost completely surrounded by seawater. The VLF Naval Communication Station, and that's because VLF works most efficiently when you've got the huge ocean here as a ground plane. Exactly the same on the northwest Cape of Australia. So they're located for efficiency and practicality. They're not located in these sort of places because they're super secret. Everyone and his dog that needs to know about these places and what they do and how they work knows about how they work and what they're doing. Okay, so I'll just show you quickly the Tri-Deco antenna, and you'll see straight away the shape. Actually, before I do that, I'll just show you where in America this thing is. So you can see it's right up there. It's right up there. And where the Australian one is, so this one here is going to be for the Atlantic. And if we just turn the planet around, actually there's probably one, I would think, for the main Pacific area, because the Australian one is right up here, so that I would think is going to be for the Indian Ocean, for this region here, the Harold E. Holt one on the tip of Australia there. So I suspect there's going to have to be another one. There's going to be another one in here somewhere, maybe even on Hawaii, that's going to cover the Pacific region, so that they can talk to the submarines globally. Actually, the Russians have got quite a clever system, very clever in fact, called ZEVs. That actually uses the planet itself as an antenna. Some clever chap figured out that a certain type of rock, using a certain type of rock that can be found in certain places on the planet, you can create a synthetic dipole antenna inside the planet and use the planet itself. So you don't need all those massive huge structures. And the Russian ZEVs thing is there on the Kola Peninsula, right there, and that's global. And apparently it's quite a lot stronger than the American ones with the big antennas up in the air. So very clever chaps, not to be underestimated. All right, now I'll just show you quickly the Trideco antenna, and then we'll take another look at that quote marks documentary, close quote marks. Here are the some different designs for VLF antennas, and that's the pattern we were just looking at with the diamonds like that. That's a huge capacity hat. That's what it looks like from the side. So you've got a big mast in the middle, and then you've got two rings of masts which support all those wires. And just in case you fancy building one of these things, there's some information about them. You can see these things have been around for a very long time. Tunable 14.3 to 30 kilohertz, radiated power 1 megawatt, maximum voltage 200,000 volts. Oh, here we go, and this is telling us where they are. So there is one here. There's one here. Okay, well they've got a few of these around. Well, I suppose there really had to be. There had to be one in the middle of the Pacific, really, because of that one was for the Atlantic and the Australian one is for the Indian Ocean, so there had to be one there. I'm not sure exactly where it is. It's going to be on one of the little American islands out there in the middle of nowhere, probably. You can see how secret this is. It's on the internet. US Navy VLF communication system in the 1990s. And they know all about how far into the water the signals are going to penetrate from these places. I've got some information on how to construct one of these if you want to build one. Types of antennas, Trideco design at Cutler. Towers and top load. Remember the top load are the big wire petals. The tuning network, the ground system, tells you everything you need to know. So it really isn't super secret. It's not. That is just journalistic license to the nth degree. Okay, I'm going to add a bookmark there. This is interesting. I'll pay a little more attention to this a little bit later on. Okay, well let's get back to the Doco. Okay, we're back to the documentary, and this is showing you a little bit more of the design of the antenna. So there's a 1,000-foot mast in the middle, and you've got those wire petals going out. You can't actually really see it here, but you know we've seen it from above in diagram form and in reality. This is what it looks like from the side. So you've got quite a few masts there holding all that stuff up. Now, this is quite interesting. I've actually seen this sign myself. I've actually been there and stood next to it. I may have even photographed it. That sign there, radio transmitter area, warning, danger of explosion, do not take electrical detonators past this point. You've got to bear in mind this is Australia. There's a lot of mining going on all over the place, and a lot of the utes, you know, the little pickup trucks are riding around and they've got explosives because they've got little mines out in the bush and they're doing all this, that and the other. They use electrical detonators. And there's so much energy being radiated from this VLF station that there's a sign there saying danger of explosion, do not take electrical detonators past this point. I can't remember where that sign is. I don't think it's that close to the station, to be honest. I suppose it must be, but yeah, anyway, interesting nevertheless.
Mystery of just what that object was that was seen hovering somewhere between this hill and that remote secret base still remains unsolved.
Well, remote secret base, I mean, it's only about 5 kilometres from a town called Exmouth, so yeah. Again, this is all journalistic license, journalistic enhancement.
I find that fascinating, and so do a lot of other people all around the world who've long been puzzled by the conundrum of unidentified aerial phenomena. It's something that has also been ridiculed and covered up for so long. So we've decided to follow the trail, to follow in the steps of the Americans here who took their secrets with them. We're going all the way across the continent and across the Pacific Ocean to their home country on the trail of the flying saucers.
Yeah, well, good luck, Ross. And that will then lead into the bit that I've either shown you already or will show you now, where he relates a lot of family folklore and science fiction twaddle to the crash at Corona. So really disappointing. I mean, it's overhyped to the nth degree. You know, talking about the super secret base, it's ridiculous. As I said, you can step over the fence there. If Pine Gap, of course, is a very different story, but that's an NSA type operation where it's all communications to military satellites and eavesdropping on all sorts of people. It's got nothing whatsoever to do with ET Pine Gap. There's certainly no alien base there. All right, okay, well, I don't think there was anything else I was going to mention on this particular one. So either over to the next clip, or thanks for watching. Catch you next time.